The chamber was vast, unlike anything Captain Liam Harker had ever seen. The walls shimmered with an iridescent glow, pulsating as if alive, as though the entire alien ship was a sentient entity. At the center of the room stood a figure, tall, impossibly slender, and encased in what looked like cascading light, yet with an air of both authority and menace. Around her, a council of aliens, each encased in intricate armor, stood in silent reverence. Liam knelt instinctively, not out of respect, but because the weight of the atmosphere felt crushing, almost suffocating. Behind him, his crew of 6 humans stood frozen, unsure whether to bow or run. Their mission was supposed to be a reconnaissance operation. Instead, they had been captured and brought aboard this massive vessel orbiting Earth. The planet's future now rested on their shoulders. The alien woman, glowing brighter than the stars visible through the chamber's translucent ceiling, finally spoke. Her voice echoed, not in the room, but directly in their minds, each word carrying a tone of both warning and pity. "Humans, you stand before the Eledri Dominion," she began, her gaze piercing through them. "A species far beyond your comprehension. You, the architects of destruction and chaos, dare resist our arrival?" Liam clenched his fists. He had heard about the Eledri and fragmented transmissions from spacefaring probes. They were rumored to be thousands of years ahead in technology, their empire stretching across galaxies. But nothing could have prepared him for this. "We didn't resist," he shouted, his voice echoing feebly in the chamber. "We only wanted to understand why you've come." The glow around her intensified. It wasn't anger, something deeper, an alien emotion incomprehensible to humans. "Understand?" she repeated mockingly. "Your kind destroys what it does not understand. This planet, fragile and young, has reached its threshold. We came to intervene before you eradicate yourselves." Behind him, Dr. Elena Mora, the mission's linguist, Khan whispered, "Liam, they're judging us. It's like they think they're some kind of cosmic guardians." Before Liam could respond, the alien leader raised her hand. A holographic projection appeared midair, displaying Earth. Its oceans glimmered blue, its continents vibrant, but within seconds, the image shifted to show rising temperatures, melting ice caps, scorched forests, and endless wars. It was as if the Eledri were peeling back the layers of Earth's history, exposing humanity's sins in a damning light. "Our council deliberated," she continued. "We debated whether your species is worth saving. The balance teeters on the edge of annihilation. Convince us otherwise, or this ship will execute the reset." Liam's heart sank. He had no idea what the reset meant, but the cold finality in her tone made it clear. Humanity was on the brink of extinction. Elena stepped forward, trembling but defiant. "Wait. You can't condemn an entire species based on our worst moments. We've built civilizations, created art, cured diseases. We've overcome unimaginable challenges." The alien leader tilted her head, her ethereal face unreadable. "Your creations pale in comparison to the destruction you've wrought." Still, her voice lingered, and for the first time, it seemed uncertain. "The Dominion has always granted a trial to the condemned. You will have your chance to prove humanity's worth." Liam exchanged a nervous glance with Elena. Behind them, the rest of the crew looked equally shaken. "What does this trial entail?" he asked warily. The chamber darkened, the glow of the walls dimming to an ominous hue. The alien leader's voice became colder. "You will face 3 tests, one of intellect, one of morality, and one of survival. Fail even one, and your species will cease to exist." The walls seemed to ripple as if alive, and the floor beneath their feet began to shift. Liam's mind raced. How could 7 humans, abducted and unprepared, possibly represent all of humanity? How could they win against a civilization 1,000 times more advanced? But he knew there was no choice. "I accept your terms," Liam said, standing tall. His voice was firm, but inside, his resolve wavered. "We'll prove that humanity deserves to survive." The alien leader didn't react. Instead, she turned, her form dissipating into light. "Let the trial begin." Her voice echoed as the chamber erupted into chaos. The floor split open, revealing a void that pulled Liam and his crew into darkness. In that moment, Liam realized one thing. This trial wasn't about survival. It was a battle for Earth's soul. As the crew hurtled through the void, there was no sense of gravity, no air, no sound, only the overwhelming sensation of falling. Liam reached out instinctively, his fingers brushing against Elena's arm. Her terrified eyes locked onto his for just a second before they were engulfed by blinding white light. When the light receded, they were no longer aboard the alien ship. Instead, they stood in what appeared to be a vast chamber of glass and mirrors, the floor shimmering like liquid silver beneath their feet. Reflected infinitely in every direction, they could see themselves multiplied 1,000 times, small, fragile, and deeply out of place. "What the hell just happened?" muttered Sergeant Cole, gripping his plasma rifle tightly, though he knew it was useless against their captors. "Where are we?" Liam scanned the room, his pulse still racing. "I don't know. Stay together." Before he could finish, the alien leader's voice rang out again, echoing through their minds. "The first trial begins now. A test of intellect. Humanity's greatest strength lies in its ingenuity, its ability to solve what seems unsolvable. But does your kind possess the wisdom to wield this gift responsibly?" From the center of the chamber, a massive pillar of light shot upward, and within it, an intricate series of symbols began to shift and twist, forming patterns and equations that seemed to defy logic. The crew instinctively stepped back as the symbols rearranged themselves into an enormous puzzle, its complexity far beyond anything they had ever encountered. Dr. Elena Mora's breath hitched as she stepped forward, staring at the glowing puzzle. It's some kind of linguistic cipher," she said, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. "But the patterns, they're changing too fast. Can you solve it?" Liam asked urgently, his eyes darting between Elena and the glowing pillar. I don't know," she admitted, her hands trembling as she adjusted her glasses. "It's not just language. It's layered with mathematical principles, quantum mechanics. It's like they've combined every field of human knowledge into one impossible code." The alien leader's voice interrupted her frantic murmurs. "Each incorrect attempt will accelerate the collapse. You have 3 chances." "Collapse?" Elena whispered, her voice cracking. Suddenly, the chamber trembled violently. Above them, the mirrored ceiling began to fracture, cracks spreading outward like a spiderweb. Through the cracks, a swirling void of stars and darkness loomed, threatening to consume them. "Not to rush you, but that doesn't look good," Cole shouted, pointing upward. "Elena, focus!" Liam barked, gripping her shoulders. "You're the smartest person I know. If anyone can do this, it's you." Elena nodded shakily, taking a deep breath. Okay, let me think." She knelt by the pillar, her fingers tracing the symbols as they shifted and glowed beneath her touch. It was like trying to catch water in her hands. Every time she thought she had deciphered one layer, another would appear beneath it, even more complex than the last. Behind her, the rest of the crew stood in tense silence, watching the cracks grow. Sparks of light rained down as pieces of the mirrored ceiling began to fall, shattering into shards that dissolved before hitting the ground. "Time is slipping away, human," the alien leader's voice warned. "Choose your answers wisely." Elena's mind raced, her thoughts a chaotic blur. Then she saw it, a pattern hidden deep within the shifting symbols, a rhythm that felt almost musical. She bit her lip, her hands moving faster now, connecting the pieces of the puzzle like notes in a symphony. "I've got it," she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. "It's not just knowledge. They're testing if we can see the beauty in the chaos." She pressed her hands against the pillar, rearranging the symbols into a final sequence. The room fell silent for a heart-stopping moment. Then the symbols glowed brighter, fusing into a single unified light that shot upward, sealing the cracks in the ceiling and restoring the chamber. Liam let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Did we pass?" The alien leader's voice returned, colder this time. "You succeeded, but barely. Your intellect is a double-edged sword. Humans. It creates as much destruction as it does progress. Remember this as you face the next trial." The floor beneath them shimmered again, the liquid silver giving way to a new, unfamiliar landscape. This time, it was a desolate desert under a crimson sky. The air was heavy, suffocating, and the distant sound of thunder echoed ominously. "What now?" muttered Dr. Kiran Patel, the crew's medic, shielding his eyes from the harsh red sun. "Is this the next trial?" Liam scanned the horizon, his jaw tightening. The desert stretched endlessly in all directions. But in the distance, he spotted what looked like ruins, jagged structures jutting out from the sand like broken teeth. "Morality," Liam said grimly, recalling the alien leader's words. "This has to be the second test." As they trudged forward, the heat bearing down on them, they saw something ahead, a figure stumbling through the sand. It was humanoid but clearly alien, its body frail and wrapped in tattered cloth. It collapsed just as the crew reached it. Liam knelt beside the creature, his instincts as a soldier battling his caution. Its breathing was shallow, its eyes wide with fear. "It's dying," he said. "We need to help it." "Help it," Cole interjected, his voice tense. "How do we know this isn't part of the test? What if it's a trap?" Liam looked up at Elena, her face pale and uncertain. "What if the real test is whether we risk ourselves to save someone we don't understand?" she asked softly. The alien's eyes flickered weakly, and its trembling hand reached out toward Liam. In that moment, he realized the truth. The trial wasn't about solving puzzles or fighting battles. It was about their capacity for empathy, even in the face of fear and uncertainty. But as Liam reached for the creature, a shadow loomed over them, a massive, hulking figure emerging from the sands. Its metallic form gleamed in the crimson light, its eyes glowing like burning coals. It was a guardian, and it didn't look pleased. The guardian stood over them, a towering colossus of alien metal and technology, its every movement emitting a low, guttural hum. Its glowing eyes locked onto Liam, and for a moment, the oppressive silence of the crimson desert seemed to amplify the weight of its presence. The creature lying in the sand whimpered weakly, its fragile hand still outstretched toward Liam. "Liam," Elena hissed, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to move, now." But Liam didn't budge. "We can't leave it," he said firmly. "If this is the morality test, then running is the wrong answer." "That thing looks ready to crush us," Cole countered, aiming his rifle at the Guardian's chest. "And I'm not about to stick around to find out how it plans to do it." "Stand down!" Liam barked, his voice cutting through the growing panic. "If you shoot, we fail this trial. No one fires unless I say so." The Guardian stepped forward, its heavy, clawed feet sinking into the sand. The air around it shimmered with heat and energy, and every step it took made the ground tremble. Behind Liam, the crew began to back away, their survival instincts screaming at them to flee. Elena knelt beside Liam, her trembling hands working quickly to examine the wounded alien. "It's severely dehydrated," she said, pulling a small canister of water from her belt. She glanced up at Liam. "If we save it, we're making ourselves vulnerable. Are you sure about this?" Liam didn't hesitate. "Do it." Elena poured the water into the alien's parched mouth, her movements careful but deliberate. The creature drank weakly, its breathing stabilizing slightly. Its large, glassy eyes fixed on her, a flicker of gratitude visible even through its pain. The Guardian stopped suddenly, just meters away from them. It lowered its massive frame, crouching as if to observe. The glowing eyes dimmed momentarily, and its metallic head tilted, as though analyzing their every move. "I think it's watching us," Dr. Patel said, his voice barely audible. "Maybe it's waiting to see what we'll do next." "What else can we do?" Cole growled, still clutching his weapon. "Let's grab the alien and run before that thing decides to finish us off." "No," Liam said firmly, standing between the Guardian and his crew. "If this trial is about morality, we don't fight. We don't run. We do what's right." The Guardian emitted a low, rumbling sound, and the air around it began to ripple. From its chest, a small compartment opened, revealing a glowing orb. The orb floated upward, projecting a hologram of Earth above their heads. The image shifted rapidly, showing scenes of war, destruction, and suffering. "You must choose," The alien leader's voice echoed in their minds. Save the one before you or preserve yourselves. But know this. Each choice carries a price. The hologram changed again, this time showing the alien they had just saved. It was no ordinary being. It was a key figure, a symbol of its race's survival. Without it, an entire civilization teetered on the edge of extinction. Elena gasped as the realization sank in. This alien, it's their last hope. If it dies, so does its species. And if we stay, Cole snapped, that guardian is going to wipe us out. We're not equipped for this, Liam. The alien on the ground stirred weakly, its hand brushing against Liam's knee. Its voice, faint and melodic, spoke for the first time, though none of them could understand the words. Yet, in its tone, there was a plea, a desperate cry for help. Liam's mind raced. If they abandoned the alien, it was a guaranteed death sentence for an entire species. But if they stayed, the Guardian could destroy them all, and humanity's trial would end in failure. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, heavier than the crimson sky above. We stay, Liam said finally, his voice resolute. We protect it. Liam, Cole shouted, his frustration boiling over. You're gambling all of our lives. I'm making sure humanity doesn't fail this test, Liam snapped, cutting him off. If we turn our backs now, we prove we don't deserve to survive, so we stay, and we face whatever comes. The Guardian let out a deafening roar, the sound reverberating across the desert. Its metallic arms rose, crackling with energy. The orb above its chest pulsed with light, and the ground beneath their feet began to quake violently. Here it comes! Patel yelled, bracing himself. The Guardian charged, moving faster than seemed possible for something so massive. Liam stood his ground, shielding the alien with his body. Behind him, Elena scrambled to cover the creature with her arms, as though her slight frame could somehow protect it. The moment the Guardian was upon them, it stopped abruptly. Its claws hovered inches from Liam, its glowing eyes narrowing as if scrutinizing him. For a long, agonizing moment, nothing happened. The only sound was the ragged breathing of the wounded alien. Then, without warning, the Guardian retracted its arms and stepped back. The orb in its chest dimmed, and the projection of Earth faded. The alien leader's voice echoed once more, calm but measured. You chose sacrifice over survival, compassion over fear. Humanity has passed the second trial. The desert began to dissolve, the crimson sky peeling away like layers of paint. The crew found themselves back in the mirrored chamber, the alien they had saved lying unconscious but stable beside them. Liam let out a shaky breath, his knees threatening to give out. Is it over? He asked, his voice hoarse. The alien leader's voice returned, colder than before. No, one trial remains, survival, the most primitive instinct of all. Will your species endure, or will it perish? The floor beneath them disappeared, and they plummeted into darkness once more. The crew landed hard. The wind knocked from their lungs as they sprawled on a cold, uneven surface. Liam groaned, pushing himself up and blinking into the darkness. Around him, his team did the same, coughing and muttering in disoriented confusion. The air here was different, thin and metallic, every breath sharp in their throats. Where are we now? Elena asked, her voice trembling as she helped the alien they'd saved sit upright. Its fragile frame shivered, but it clung to her, its glowing eyes darting nervously around the new environment. As their eyes adjusted, the crew realized they were no longer on an alien ship or in a desert simulation. Instead, they found themselves in what looked like the remains of a war zone. Jagged metal towers jutted into the sky like skeletal remains, and the ground was littered with debris, shattered machines, broken weapons, and craters that told the story of a violent conflict long since past. Survival, Liam murmured, recalling the alien leader's words. This must be the final test. Survival against what? Cole muttered, sweeping his rifle across the desolate landscape. His voice dropped lower. I don't like this. Feels like we're being hunted. Before Liam could respond, a deep, guttural growl echoed from the shadows. The crew froze, their blood running cold. From the ruins emerged a creature unlike anything they had seen, a towering predator with armor-like scales, 6 glowing eyes, and claws that glinted like serrated blades. Its movements were slow and deliberate, its gaze fixed squarely on them. "Run," Liam ordered, his voice sharp. "Now." The crew scattered, their boots pounding against the cracked ground as the beast roared and lunged forward. It was impossibly fast for its size, its claws slicing through the air inches from Liam's back as he dove into cover behind a broken piece of machinery. The alien they had saved clung to Elena, its wide eyes filled with terror as she pulled it behind a crumbled wall. "We can't outrun it," Cole shouted, firing his rifle at the creature. The plasma bolt struck its armor, but the energy dissipated harmlessly, leaving the beast unharmed. "Great! Of course it's indestructible." "Stop shooting!" Liam yelled. "It's not just about killing the monster, it's the test. They're watching to see how we survive this." Cole gritted his teeth. "Survive how? Let it eat us." "No," Elena cut in, her voice urgent. "Look around. This place, it's not random. These ruins, they're part of the test. There has to be something here we can use." Liam scanned the area, his eyes narrowing. The ruins stretched endlessly, but amidst the debris, he noticed a faint glow emanating from a distant structure, a dome-like building half buried in rubble. "There," he pointed. "We make it to that structure." "Move." The crew regrouped, darting from cover to cover as the beast pursued them relentlessly. Each time it lunged, its claws tore through metal and stone as though they were paper. Dr. Patel tripped, and the beast's shadow loomed over him. Liam pivoted and fired a distraction shot, shouting, "Over here." The creature turned toward him, giving Patel just enough time to scramble to his feet and keep running. "Thanks, Cap," Patel gasped, his face pale with terror. "Just keep moving," Liam barked, his heart hammering as the crew neared the glowing dome. But as they approached, a shimmering barrier of energy materialized around it, blocking their path. "You've got to be kidding me," Cole exclaimed, slamming his fist against the barrier. "What now?" Elena stepped forward, examining the barrier. "It's a force field," she said, her fingers brushing the surface. "I can see a pattern. It's a puzzle lock, probably part of the trial." "Another puzzle?" Cole shouted, throwing his hands in the air. "We've got seconds before that thing tears us apart." Elena ignored him, her focus razor-sharp as she worked to decode the barrier's sequence. Behind them, the beast roared again, closing the distance. Liam and Cole stood side by side, their weapons ready, knowing they couldn't stop it but determined to buy Elena time. "Elena, whatever you're doing, do it faster," Liam shouted as the creature lunged. He and Cole opened fire, their weapons barely slowing it down. The beast swiped at them, its claws grazing Cole's arm and sending him sprawling. "I'm trying," Elena snapped, her hands moving frantically over the glowing symbols. "It's not just a lock, it's testing something else. Intent, harmony, I don't..." The creature roared again, charging straight for Elena. Liam threw himself in its path, firing until his weapon overheated. "No!" he bellowed, bracing for impact. But just as the beast's claws descended, the alien they had saved leapt forward. It emitted a high-pitched wail, its frail arms outstretched as if to shield Liam. The beast stopped mid-attack, its glowing eyes narrowing. It let out a low, guttural growl and stepped back, retreating slightly. "What just happened?" Patel whispered, his voice shaking. Elena gasped. "It protected us. The alien, it saved Liam." The beast tilted its head, watching as the alien reached out to touch its massive claw. For a moment, the two creatures, so vastly different, seemed to connect. Then, slowly, the beast stepped aside, allowing them to approach the dome. The energy barrier dissolved. The crew exchanged stunned glances before rushing inside, dragging the alien with them. Once inside, the door sealed shut, cutting off the beast's roars. They collapsed onto the floor, gasping for air, their bodies trembling with adrenaline. A soft light filled the dome, and the alien leader's voice echoed once more. "You have passed the third trial." Liam sat up, his face a mixture of relief and exhaustion. "That's it? We're done." "Not yet," the voice replied, colder than ever. "You have proven your intellect, your morality, and your instinct to survive. But one final question remains. Is humanity's existence worth the cost of what it takes to protect it? The walls of the dome transformed into a projection of Earth. The crew watched in horror as scenes of devastation played out. War, famine, environmental collapse. The alien leader's voice continued, her tone laced with judgment. You are a species of contradictions, capable of great compassion and unimaginable cruelty. Convince us, humans, why should the Dominion spare your kind? Liam stood, his body battered but his resolve unshaken. He glanced at his crew, at the alien they had saved, and then back at the projection of Earth. I don't have all the answers, he began, his voice steady. But I know this. Humanity isn't perfect. We've made mistakes, terrible ones. But we've also fought to make things better. We've learned, we've grown, and we're not done yet. The light in the dome dimmed, and silence fell. The crew held their breath, waiting for the alien leader's verdict. The silence was suffocating. Liam's words hung in the air, unanswered, as the light within the dome flickered faintly. The crew stood frozen, waiting, their faces pale and drawn with exhaustion. The alien leader's presence, invisible but palpable, seemed to loom over them like a storm cloud. Even the alien they had saved remained quiet, its large eyes flickering between Liam and the projections of Earth's turmoil. Finally, the alien leader's voice echoed again, cold and calculating. Your defense is earnest, Captain, but earnestness does not erase destruction. Words are wind. Actions must speak louder. One final test remains. Liam's stomach dropped. You said 3 trials. He growled. We passed them all. You passed the trials presented to you, the leader countered, her tone unyielding. This final question is not a trial, it is a choice. The dome's walls shimmered, and 2 holographic pathways appeared before them. The first glowed with a serene blue light, depicting Earth restored, a vibrant world of flourishing ecosystems, technological marvels, and peace among nations. The second path pulsed with an ominous red hue, showing Earth consumed by chaos, its skies blackened, its lands scorched, its people lost to despair. This is the truth of your existence, the alien leader explained. The first path shows what your species could achieve if given the chance. The second reveals the likely trajectory should you continue as you are. That's not fair, Elena protested, stepping forward. You can't predict the future with certainty. Humanity isn't a fixed equation. We're capable of changing, of choosing a better path. Are you? The leader retorted. Then prove it. One of you must make the choice. A sharp sound reverberated through the dome, and a pedestal rose from the floor between the 2 paths. On it rested a single, shimmering crystal, small, delicate, and pulsating with energy. Its light shifted between blue and red, its colors mirroring the pathways. Touch the crystal, the leader instructed. If you choose the blue path, humanity will be spared. We will grant you the tools to rebuild your world, but at a cost. One of your lives must be given in exchange. A sacrifice. The crew exchanged shocked glances. And the red path? Cole asked warily, his voice tight with dread. The red path spares all of you, the leader said, her tone unrelenting. You may return to Earth unharmed, but humanity will be left to its own devices, free of our intervention. And when the inevitable comes, when your world burns, it will be by your own hands. Liam's jaw tightened as the implications sank in. The choice was brutal. Sacrifice one of their own for a chance at redemption, or preserve their lives and doom humanity to a dark future. This is insane, Cole hissed, pacing back and forth. We're supposed to die for a species that might screw itself over anyway. That's not fair. It's not about fairness, Elena shot back, her voice rising. It's about responsibility. If we don't do this, if we don't try to save Earth, then what's the point of any of this? Liam raised a hand, silencing the argument. Enough, he said, his tone calm but resolute. He stepped toward the pedestal, his boots echoing against the floor. Liam, wait, Elena pleaded, grabbing his arm. You don't have to do this. We can figure out another way. There is no other way. He interrupted gently. It's clear what they want. Someone has to step up. Cole bristled. You don't get to play martyr, Captain. You think you're the only one willing to sacrifice for the mission. It's not about me, Liam replied, turning to face his crew. It's about us, about what we represent. They're testing whether we're willing to put the greater good above ourselves. And if we can't do that, then maybe we don't deserve to survive. The room fell silent. Each member of the crew grappled with the enormity of the decision. Patel ran a hand through his hair, his face etched with anguish. Elena looked like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Even the alien they had saved gazed at Liam with what seemed like sorrowful understanding. Let me do it, Elena said finally, stepping forward. You're the leader, Liam. Earth needs you. No, Liam said firmly. Earth needs all of us, but I'm the one who brought us here. The responsibility falls on me. He turned back toward the pedestal, his fingers trembling as he reached for the crystal. The blue light intensified, pulsing with a steady rhythm, as if it could sense his intent. But before he could touch it, the alien they had saved moved. Slowly, it rose to its feet, its frail form radiating a quiet strength. It stepped forward, placing itself between Liam and the crystal. The crew watched in stunned silence as the alien extended its hand, its fingers brushing the glowing surface of the artifact. The blue light flared, engulfing the dome in a brilliant radiance. The alien leader's voice returned, softer now, almost reverent. A life has been given. No! Liam shouted, reaching out to stop the alien, but it was too late. The creature's body began to dissolve into pure energy, its form breaking apart like starlight scattering into the void. Why? Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. Why would it do that? The alien leader's voice answered, resonant and final. It understood what you could not. True survival requires sacrifice, not of the self, but for the whole. The light faded, and the crew found themselves back on the alien ship's chamber. The walls no longer pulsed with judgment, but with a soft, steady glow. Earth hung outside the translucent walls, peaceful and whole. You have passed, the alien leader declared. Humanity will be spared. Use this chance wisely. Before Liam could respond, the chamber dissolved, and the crew found themselves aboard their own ship, orbiting Earth once more. The alien vessel was gone, as though it had never been. Liam stared at the planet below, his heart heavy with the weight of what had been lost and what had been saved. The crew sat in stunned silence aboard their ship, the hum of its engines the only sound as Earth loomed large outside the viewport. The enormity of what had happened left them hollow, their minds replaying the alien's final moments again and again. Liam stood at the helm, his hands gripping the console as if to ground himself. He stared at Earth, its blues and greens pristine against the void of space. The alien leader's voice echoed in his mind. True survival requires sacrifice, not of the self, but for the whole. Behind him, Elena broke the silence. Why would it do that? She whispered, her voice raw. It didn't have to. It could have let us choose. Dr. Patel sighed heavily, rubbing his face with his hands. Maybe it knew we'd never agree. Maybe it thought sparing us would help us see what's worth saving. Liam turned to face his crew. They were battered and exhausted, their faces pale and drawn, but they were alive. And despite everything, Earth had another chance. It didn't just spare us, he said quietly. It showed us what we have to fight for. Cole, pacing restlessly, stopped in his tracks and turned to Liam. Fight for what? A planet that's already on the brink? The Dominion gave us a chance, sure. But how do we fix centuries of damage? How do we stop ourselves from making the same mistakes? Liam's gaze hardened. We start by remembering what happened up there, by honoring the sacrifice that alien made. We can't change the past, but we can shape the future. Elena looked up, her eyes glassy with unshed tears. And if we fail? What happens if the Dominion comes back and sees we've fallen short? They won't, Liam said firmly, though doubt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. Because we won't give them a reason to. Suddenly, the ship's console lit up, a series of alerts flashing across the screen. Elena rushed forward, scanning the readings. Captain, There's something happening in Earth's atmosphere. What now? Cole muttered, joining her. Elena pointed to the display. It's a signal. Low frequency, global broadcast. It's coming from the location where the Dominion ship was last detected. Liam leaned over the console, his pulse quickening. Put it through. Elena keyed in the command, and the ship's speakers crackled to life. At first, the sound was faint, like whispers carried on the wind. But slowly, the message grew clear, a series of tones and pulses, almost musical in nature. The crew exchanged confused glances. Is it them? Patel asked, his voice tinged with apprehension. I don't think so, Elena replied, furrowing her brow. It's not Dominion technology. It's human. Liam's eyes widened as realization dawned. The alien. It didn't just sacrifice itself, it left something behind. The signal shifted, resolving into a single, steady tone. A pattern of light appeared on the console, forming a map of Earth with a single glowing point marked in the Pacific Ocean. It's a location, Elena said, her voice tinged with awe. Somewhere in the middle of the ocean. Cole frowned. What's out there? A research station? A base? Nothing, Elena said, shaking her head. Not according to any records. Liam straightened, his expression resolute. Then that's where we're going. Cole threw up his hands. You're kidding, right? We just survived an alien trial that nearly killed us. And now you want to chase after some mystery signal. It's not just a signal, Liam said, his voice firm. It's a message. That alien didn't die to leave us in the dark. Whatever it left behind, it's meant to guide us. Patel nodded slowly. If it's something that can help us rebuild, we owe it to ourselves and to that alien to find out. Cole grumbled under his breath but didn't argue further. Elena began plotting the course, her hands steady despite the weight of what they'd been through. As the ship veered toward the Pacific, the signal grew stronger, its tones resonating in the hull like a heartbeat. The crew prepared for what lay ahead, their exhaustion momentarily pushed aside by a renewed sense of purpose. When they arrived at the coordinates, the ocean below glimmered under the light of the moon, calm and endless. But as they descended, the water shimmered unnaturally, glowing faintly with an otherworldly hue. What is that? Patel whispered, leaning closer to the viewport. Something's beneath the surface, Elena said, her voice hushed with wonder. Liam activated the ship's submersible mode and they plunged into the depths. The water grew darker, the glow intensifying as they descended. Soon, a massive structure came into view, an alien construct, its design unmistakably Dominion but imbued with a gentler, more organic aesthetic. It pulsed with light, like a living organism. The ship docked at an entry point, and the crew suited up, their movements tense but deliberate. As they entered the structure, the air was warm, almost comforting, and the walls shimmered with the same rhythmic light as the signal. In the heart of the structure, they found it, a crystalline core, glowing with the same blue light as the artifact in the final trial. Encased within it was an intricate web of data, information flowing like liquid across its surface. Elena approached cautiously, her breath catching in her throat. It's knowledge. A blueprint for technology, for healing, for sustainability. Everything we need to fix Earth. Patel stared in awe. It left us a way forward. Liam stepped closer, his voice steady but filled with reverence. Not just a way forward, a chance to be better, to earn the future it saw in us. As the crew absorbed the enormity of what they had discovered, the crystal's light pulsed brighter, as if in acknowledgement. Liam placed his hand against its surface, a silent promise forming in his mind. They would not squander this gift. Humanity would rise not as the flawed species the Dominion had judged, but as a people worthy of the second chance they had been given. And for the first time, in what felt like an eternity, Liam allowed himself to hope.